everyone, welcome. My name is Piers, CEO of RDX Works, a core developer of the decentralized finance protocol Radix, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi to the mainstream. Today, we are doing a in the year 2022 roundup with Dan, founder of RDX Works, and we are going to be talking about what has happened over the year that has been. What did you think of 2023, Dan? What did you think of 2022?
2023 hasn't happened yet.
I
think 2022 has been a bit mental.
What did you think of 2022?
I'm not sure about 2023 yet. Hopefully it all just calms down.
Yeah, I was just going through our sort of like history for the year, and so like we started off with the launch of Scripto, which was huge. That went from like 0 to over 5,000 developers learning Scripto in a year, which is insane. We got the Ledger Nano and the Ledger X and a bunch of other ledgers now supported the Radix network. So we were added to the developer section of the Radix of the Ledger app, which is fantastic. Means that people can use hardware wallets with the Radix ledger before Babylon was even live. Jeremy Epstein joined us. And became our CMO, and he's been doing sort of cracking work on the marketing side.
Radix Revelations.
Yeah, Radix Revelations, exactly. Radix Revelations, all about the Radix Revelation. And then we had the Scripto Dex Challenge. That was the first challenge that we sort of like put out for people to build using Scripto. That was amazing. Like people built some incredible stuff. The first ever challenge with Scripto, like 2 months after Scripto came out, and people were building things that were like more complicated than Uniswap V2, which I thought was amazing. We had Lawrence Okoli.
We did the fight that I couldn't go to because it's my boy's birthday, and I didn't want to be looked at as a bad parent taking a 3-year-old to ringside. I believe you went. I believe you and Jacob went.
Right? He put us ringside. Lawrence Okoli, sort of world cruiserweight boxing champion, and he had his Radix revelation. He discovered Radix in sort of like January.
His little diamond XRD thing.
XRD. Oh, amazing, and like full like Radix logos on his boxing gear. That was so cool.
Good job, he
won. We had, obviously, very sadly, we had the war in Ukraine, but on sort of like a good side of things, we had Radical Penguins which is an NFT project on top of Radix, do a special Ukrainian version of the Radical Penguins, and that raised $2.24 million for charity, which was you were part of verifying that, weren't you?
I did, yeah. Verified it as far as I could without logging into bank accounts of other people.
Yeah.
There was a bunch that went to the Ukraine fund, and then some to like the Red Cross and a children's charity, like children in war-stricken countries and stuff. So it was kind of spread around to a few charities. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a record for a NFT charity sale, so that's amazing, and sort of kudos to the Radical Penguins team for that. We went to South by Southwest, which was an interesting conference. I was was tackled to the ground by a fitness influencer called Demi.
Yeah. You got your ass handed to you.
Completely. She's tiny but very muscular, and she took advantage of me. No, it was fun. And then we also met Red Foo from the band LMFAO, and got him like sort of excited about Radix and Scripto. And then we had our first developer event, Scripto developer event. We had over 150 people come to this first one. Across like 5 cities, which was amazing. If you haven't checked out the footage from this, it was awesome. It was the first time that we got people physically there, and the response from people wanting to learn about Web3 and DeFi and crypto, and developers learning, Scripto for the first time was incredible. And that was an amazing day.
That was the first Adam robot. Right?
That was the first Adam robot. Yes. Robo. No, it wasn't. It was the second Robo Adam. The first Robo Adam was when we did like a strategy planning session and we brought Robo Adam along, and that worked really well. Um,
Yeah, this is the first public
it was the
appearance
first
of
public
Robo Adam,
appearance.
though, right?
Exactly. We had Robo Adam wander around, say hello to people. We then had we then did some improvements to Scripto. Scripto got the transaction manifest, and we enabled some web front end stuff, which allow people to sort of start building some more complicated things using Scripto, which is fantastic. We then had the Foo hack, which was absolutely awesome. We had Red Foo from LMFAO basically inviting a bunch of Radix community over to his house in Malibu, California, and we spent a few days all working together to build a decentralized chess application where people could play chess against each other. And then if you won or lost, we did these videos of Red Foo where he was either like celebrating or commiserating. It was amazing. It was really good. And the video for it, I definitely recommend people watching, because it was a wonderful sort of like holistic experience of vegan food and chess and Scripto, I think it was very good watching.
That's an interesting combination, right? Like a ranch. It does look like a ranch, right? Like a ranch, vegan food,
cows,
Scripto, hackathon, pop star.
Yeah, it was great. And then we went to Consensus. Obviously, Consensus is a huge conference in Texas now, crypto conference. That was like super interesting, and we got a bunch of really interesting connections for Radix out of that. We launched the Dandelion campaign. So, people kept pitching us ideas for things that could be done for marketing. And we decided that it'd be a great idea to sort of give people grants to have a go at like different ideas for spreading the word about Radix. I know that we've still got a bunch of these ones that we funded back then are still in the process of work, and they're going to be launched soon. So that's going to be great to see what comes out of that Dandelion, that first phase of Dandelion campaigns. We went to Masari in New York. Again, great booth presence, lots of really interesting meetings that we had there, which I'm sure you'll hear more about sort of as we come more closer to Babylon. We had the Scripto DAO challenge went live, and we saw people sort of using the tools that we had to build DAOs on top of Radix using Scripto v5 at this point, or 0.5. And then sort of probably the biggest release of the year was the Babylon AlphaNet.
Big one.
I think people don't like AlphaNet. Is obviously for outsiders, AlphaNets just feel like they're normally a bit janky. They don't work amazingly well. They're just sort of testing things out. But from a product point of view, that's probably your hardest release. That's when everything has to come together and has to work for the first time in a real environment. So that was.
Yeah, AlphaNets are stressful. BetaNets too, but yeah, I'd definitely say an AlphaNet is more stressful because it's your first kind of out in the wild, right? And if you can build something that you think works, then you give it to somebody else and they break it immediately. That happens all the time, right? Because you've kind of got confirmation bias of when you're testing things, and it's like subconsciously you don't write that test because you think it'll break. And then the test that you didn't write because you thought it might break and you don't want to deal with the depression, that's the thing that screws your AlphaNet. So yeah, AlphaNets are painful, but it went really well. Like the launch was great. It's like for an AlphaNet, it's mega stable. Like even UCD, Professor Mo used it in this past semester's kind of coursework stuff, right? So people at UCD were building projects on Scripto for their coursework, and it was Ethereum Solidity or Scripto, and so I'm hoping to get some demos of what they built actually, probably after Christmas, because I think like they're due to be submitted like now. But I've had a conversation with Mo, and we can showcase the ones that they're built in Scripto. So for an AlphaNet and being used in an academic course is pretty insane, to be honest.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, and obviously the team has that's one of the ones where if you're it's where it really becomes clear what your timelines are going to look like and what your release roadmap is going to look like when you've done AlphaNet, because that's where you sort of the whole system, you've kind of got the first full picture of it in a working environment. So that's
yeah, and you get the first, like, not always, but you get the first kind of, AlphaNet, people start using it, and then there's some feature that you maybe overlooked or you considered wasn't worth going in, and that one feature everybody's asking for, and it's like, shit.
Yeah, I don't think there was.
So okay, wait for BetaNet. It'll be there for BetaNet.
I don't think there was anything about that was sort of like asked. The main thing that was asked was like the wallet interactions.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything major.
I mean, the major thing was wallets. Like this is September.
Yeah, but I mean, from like the Scripto Radix engine, like building stuff point of view, I don't think there was anything major there. Which just kind of, that's kind of testament to how much thought has been put into what it should do, right, and the features that it needs.
Yeah. And obviously, we'd had at this point 9 months of testing with Scripto and the Radix engine in the sandbox environment, and
it's not the same.
It's not the same, but in terms of functionality, like I think at this point we had gone through 5 versions of Scripto, where we'd updated and tweaked, and like some of those were based on what we were already planning in terms of feature increase over the course of the year, and some of those were directly from feedback from people building, which is fantastic, and the whole point of doing each of these things. But you're right, AlphaNet is when you start to see people think about the next stage of things. They're now starting to think about productization and like
right, because now they start to get serious, right? Before they just had to play around with it, thought it was cool, maybe did a challenge. Whereas with AlphaNet, and even more so with BetaNet, right? That's when developers start to get serious and like, okay, how would I actually build this, right? How would I build this as a product, and all the things that you need to have as a product, you start to think about and start to build them. Whereas when you just prototype and you don't really care about productization and stuff. So with that in mind, for there to have been no major, oh my God, you guys have forgot this. It's quite an achievement.
Obviously, at the same time as all of these exciting things that are happening with Radix, we also have some relatively large things happening in the wider crypto industry. We have the, FTX blowing up.
This year's been a shit show for this stuff.
Yeah. I think I'll keep going through this, and then let's go back and talk about like Luna and FTX and that stuff, because I think it's all part of the important narrative here, right? And then the last 2 things for the year, we had RadFi revealed on December the 9th, on December the 8th actually, and that was phenomenal. Like when you're building something like that, you don't know, you're so close to it, especially if it's like media content or like creative content, you become so close to it that we worked on it for like 3 months.
You lose the wow factor.
Yeah.
You lose the wow factor, right? It's like people look at the stuff we're doing, people look at Scripto and Babylon and like some people even Olympia, right? Even though it's very basic, the fact that it's been running flawlessly for so long, or the stuff that I'm working on, you lose the wow factor because you're up against it. But then people see it for the first time and they're just absolutely mind blown. But you're numb to that because you've been working on it for like 12, 24, 36 months or whatever. It's just like, why doesn't it just work? I'm so frustrated with it. Why do we do this thing? And then somebody else sees it and they're like, oh my God, how have you built it? And like you do lose the appreciation.
Yes. Yeah. And so like it sounds weird, but when you put something out like that, by the time you've worked on it for that long, you have no idea if it's good or not anymore. You just
No, no, you don't.
you just lose all sense of perspective on it. It's like I think actors must have the same thing when they work on movies, where like you've just worked on it for so long, every single scene, all of the script, every single direction, like
Yeah, 50
50
takes
takes,
and all this
and
kind of stuff.
you no longer know. You're not sure anymore. It's like it could be good, it could be shit. We don't know what the whole thing's going to look like. And obviously, we knew that the wallet was revolutionary, and we knew that how we had built this entire stack around the concept of we have to increase the usability of everything, and we have to build everything together around this fundamental concept of assets, all the way from the user experience all the way down to consensus. Like, we knew that had to come across, both of those things, like how good our usability was going to be, and the fact that only Radix had really thought about it from the ground up and designed everything around that concept in every single layer of the stack. But making people really understand that and come away with those two messages and be like so positive about it was amazing. I mean, you were on Twitter when it dropped, right? And just so
Oh yeah. Twitter was popping with it. I'm actually surprised it didn't start trending in various regions, because there was a lot of Radfi hashtags. Yeah. It was insane.
Yeah. And we the video got 25,000 views within 24 hours, and then hit 40,000 views within a week. And if you compare that to, we were comparing this, I think the nearest comparison to this is the Solana Breakpoint event, where they released the Solana phone. And that was about an hour, and that was about an hour and 20 minutes, something like that, similar amount of time. It was right at Solana's peak, when everyone was like was absolutely crazy about Solana. And 5 months later, that video only has 46,000 views, or has 46,000 views. And within sort of a week and a half, this or just over a week, this event has got almost 40,000 views. So we're super proud of that. We think that's a huge mark, especially considering how much positivity there is around this vision of the wallet and what Radix actually enables as a result. So that was huge. And then the big last
usability is the killer app here.
Yeah.
Right now, right? It's not fancy dexes, it's not complicated DeFi products, flash loans, or any of that stuff. It's being able to provide a user experience where sending some tokens or an NFT or some asset from A to B is a no-brainer, and then you can pull true mass market.
Yep.
That's the killer app. Everything else comes after that, right? Because I've been in this industry for over 10 years now, and every year I've thought, like, this will be the year for mass market. This will be the year. It's ready, right? It's ready. Like, there's so much hype around this stuff, but then you see like an uptick in retail, and then a disaster happens because the usability is shit, or somebody gets hacked, or somebody's keys get lost, or whatever, and that just kills the momentum for your regular Joe and your retail people, because then they just get scared and they go, and then it takes 3 years for them to forget and build the confidence again. Okay, I'll give this another go, and then it happens again, and then we get something else.
Yeah. And I have this theory that things like Celsius, things like FTX, things like Mt. Gox, these are all a reaction to bad usability. They're all,
because if the user experience was good, people wouldn't be holding the fucking tokens there, right? They'd have the confidence to self-custody, or maybe not keep everything on an exchange, right? Or spread it around a little bit. But like people keep their entire portfolio on a single exchange. It's like, why?
Right.
Like, this isn't like a bank where if it collapses, you're going to get paid out an insurance payment because your tokens are gone. They're gone.
Yeah, and it's actually even worse than that because the sort of tokens are generally considered to be property. They're not money, and if they're not money and they're property, then the only thing you can actually claim is damages. No, you can't claim the underlying tokens. So like
Right, yeah. So then you get cents on the
so
dollar
then
for
you
your
get cents
property.
on the dollar for your property. So like the collapse of these exchanges is even worse for people who have left things. So like it's a usability problem first, and like Luna
Yeah.
is the exception that proves the rule here. Luna is the application that like showed the way in which Ponzi tokenomics, and get rich quick can get users to ignore basically everything, right? Can get people to ignore the
Oh, yeah.
difficulty of the user experience, can get them to get over the hump and spend a day, 2 days working out how to use MetaMask, and getting into Luna. And it showed the worst of the way that we build things in DeFi and Web3. It showed.
And I wouldn't argue that was mass market either, right? That wasn't your regular kind of guy off the
It hurt
street.
a lot
They
of people
were.
off the street.
It did, but these were still, and these were people that knew about crypto and at least had some level of I don't want to say confidence, but they were motivated to get into Luna because of get rich quick, right? And that's a big carrot. But I don't think your kind of general retail, like they're a lot more cautious than that. I think, yeah, like guy on the street, family, kind of regular job, making ends meet, especially in this cost of living shit that's going on right now. People are a lot more cautious, I think, generally. And I think Luna was a kind of bunch of catalysts that led to that happening.
Yeah,
And you're right, it does show that you can get over the hump, but there shouldn't be a hump to start
this is the thing, is that the most popular application, one of the most popular applications, was essentially a Ponzi scheme that got people over the hump, but like that shouldn't be the case. Like the most successful applications on top of these platforms shouldn't be these get rich quick schemes. Like the technology has got so much more potential in there, but until you get over the user onboarding problem, until you get over the user experience problem, then the only things that are going to be successful are the things that create that like massive emotional response that makes people like do anything to get into a thing. But then you're only seeing the worst bits of the industry being successful. Right. Or you go the other way and people go, I want to get into crypto, but I don't trust myself in self-custody. So I go and use these exchanges, and then the exchanges blow up. So for me, the Radix wallet and the whole design of the Radix stack is about unlocking the potential that occurs when you can create great user experience. Because then you can use the technology for the things that are like not as hypey, but actually way more useful.
The real utility. People can then use it because the user experience is good. They haven't got to worry about all the complexities of key storage and seed phrases and at that low level, right? Like high understanding of it would be nice. But then, you just get that confidence level that, okay, this looks like, unless, the apocalypse comes, my money is okay.
Even if the apocalypse comes, I think that's the point of self-custody, right? Even if the apocalypse comes, like these...
You can't do shit with it because the internet's gone.
Yeah, but, sure. The internet was a system that was designed around the concept of nuclear apocalypse. Like it was designed to be as resilient as possible. And now we've got things like Starlink and stuff like that. We will have internet if the apocalypse comes. I think that I can probably guarantee we're still going to have internet connectivity of some point of something, unless it really is the full like everyone's dead apocalypse. But like, I think large parts of the world infrastructure can be knocked out, and we can still think that the internet will still work badly, but it'll probably still work. The The other thing is that then if you have financial systems that are decentralized, where you have a public ledger which is resilient beyond the blow up of a single institution or the bank or whatever, and it just keeps going, and then you have non-custodial, then even then, like, that's obviously, it's the stupid, like, end state that no one wants. We don't want to imagine that an end state, that the apocalypse could happen. But really, that's what self-custody started with, is like, how do we create something so resilient that it can't be hacked or destroyed, and that you can know that your digital assets, your digital value is safe, and be able to be self-sovereign around that. And I think we keep losing sight of that because the user experience is so crap.
I don't think we keep losing sight of it. I think this industry is quite lazy as a whole. No, seriously though, right? Like centralized exchanges and centralized services, they're easy to build, right? They're easy to build, and they're easy to plug in to the decentralized stuff underneath, right? And until something explodes, everyone's quite happy having their tokens on an exchange, unless you're a diehard decentralizationist. I don't know if that's a word.
Decentralizationist.
Decentralizationist, right? So then, but like, most people are happy to have the coins on there until something starts going south, and then there's bank runs on the exchanges, which causes the collapse of the exchanges because they've been run in a lazy way, or with no regard to anything.
Hurried way.
And
I think,
because get rich quick, right? If I run an exchange and it's successful, I'm going to make billions of dollars, and I can go buy a stadium. It's like, it's just, and the other side of it is that, like, most of the innovation is done by developers, and developers are dog shit at user experience, right? You don't want a developer to figure out user experience. You want somebody in product. You want a Matt. You don't want a Dan or a Josh, or you want a Matt. Basically, right? You don't want us to do it, because we'll end up with stickman figures on the screen and oddly coloured buttons.
Much as I love the team, but you end up with Curve, right? Which is like, almost seems like it's designed to be anti-user. It's like they designed it around this sort of like, it appeals to the geek, like to the geek of a certain age as well, because they're like, oh, I remember that. But like, for everyone else is like, well, what the hell is this, and how do I even interact with it?
It's crazy. You don't want developers, and developers are still largely the UI builders and the user experience builders in this space, right? And you want product and graphic designers and product designers.
But they can't act like, until things like the Radix wallet and the Radix development kit and Scripto and all of these things that we make so much easier, like, you couldn't get that because the learning curve is so high for you to be able to.
And it's difficult as well. So again, we're back to the lazy, right? Oh, I can't be bothered to deal with a product guy and a graphics designer. I can build a UI because I'm a developer and I can build anything. It's like, yeah, maybe you can, but it'll look like a pig with lipstick on it.
I now just like imagine, I'm thinking back to sort of like e-money days, and when you had the like the marketplaces UIs or the wallet UIs.
Yeah, they were functional, right? I mean, they didn't have any of this kind of feature creepy nerdy features in there, but they just looked rubbish, right? Because I'm not a designer, so of course they look rubbish. Like, the best I can do is mimic something, like with the Twitter application on Cassie. I've tried to mimic Twitter as much as possible. It looks quite close, right? But if I didn't have Twitter, that thing would look awful. I mean, it still doesn't look great. Like, thankfully, someone from the community is helping me tart it up a little bit. But developers shouldn't touch user experience in products. Prototypes, fine, cool, no worries. But in products, no. Hire proper guys.
It's a real skill set. It's not simple. People think I think people underestimate how difficult that is.
And it's hard work, right? It's hard. It takes months of deep work, and like working with developers and your marketing team and your product team and user surveys and stuff to figure that out. And it's hard. And so people just take the lazy option. Well, I'll just build it myself. It'll be fine. And here we are.
Yeah, I mean,
That's how you get FTX.
That's how you get FTX.
Lazy developers that don't hire
Well, it's
product
not
guys.
just that. It's hard, and I think we all have a certain amount of energy in us for doing a thing, and depending on how easy or hard the thing is to do, you'll spend more or less energy on the smaller or larger component of the entire product. And so if it's really difficult to build smart contracts, you'll spend all of your time as a small team just making sure the smart contracts are safe, because if they're not, then you lose your money, right? That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
But if you can get rid of some of that and make that way easier, then what's the team going to spend their more time on? They're going to spend more of their time on customer acquisition. Well, to do that, they need to think more about UI and UX and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's not just lazy developing.
Yeah, there's a bit of a domino effect, right? If your smart contracts are easier, you need less developers, and then you can go and hire some product guys.
Because often the question is for a product, for an MVP, is how much can two people build? Because that's what a lot of founding teams look like. It looks like a couple of people, and how much they can build really depends on how hard it is to build the primitives of the things that they need. So I'm so excited in 2023 to see what kind of things people build. Now they have Scripto and the Radix engine and the Radix wallet.
I've always found it. I maybe have a different opinion, maybe others do as well. But you've got two sides, right? You've got your technical side of your product, your code or your primitives and stuff, right? What it's doing under the hood, all the features, and then you've got your user experience. And I've always found that on the technical side, that's a sliding scale of difficulty, right? It's depending on what you're doing and depending on how you're building it and what you're using to build it, that can be either very easy or it can be an obscene amount of time soak, right? But then user experience stuff, that just seems to be kind of like a flat-ish level of difficulty hardness, but it's all the way up here by default, right? But it doesn't really change much, yeah, because you're doing the same thing, user experience, use cases, user flows. What does the buttons look like? What does the text say? It's always the same kind of process, I guess, but it starts really high, right? And with development, you can, if you're lucky, you start really low, and if you're unlucky, you start really high as well.
Yeah, I think user experience starts really high. I think user interface can start low, but what people misunderstand is that you have to start with the user experience first, because
yes,
the
user experience defines. It
doesn't matter how pretty it is. It matters whether or not the user understands how to do what they want to do. And then it matters how pretty it is. But that's the starting point. That's why UX is so high, because you have to make something feel human. Once it feels human, it feels obvious. That's the thing I love about the Radix wallet, is you use the Radix wallet and you're like, this feels freaking obvious. How is this not how all of the user experiences in crypto are? And it's when you realize that the difference between a human experience and the technology implementation of a thing, there's huge numbers of abstractions or indirections that need to happen between those two things to make them all match up. And what most people do is they build the technology and then they go, okay, what are the things the technology needs to know? So those are the things that I'll just put into the interface.
Go to the user interface.
Which is how you get MetaMask, right? That's how you get MetaMask.
Yeah.
Is because it's just like, oh, these are the handles that Ethereum gives me. Okay, cool. So I'll just build an interface on top.
I'll just put levers on the screen to pull those handles.
And then you get this thing that's entirely impenetrable to anyone who hasn't been in crypto. So what are your predictions for 2023?
In terms of the market as a whole, or us? Well, we're just going to kick ass, man. There's ops. I mean, when Babylon lands, it's game over, right? That's so we're all good. I think the market's still going to suffer pain. FTXs and Luna, it's just everything's poisoned right now, right? It's every day there's a new this is potentially failing. This company is going bankrupt. Some more user funds are going to get lost. I mean, God knows what the total losses is from those two things. Now it must be approaching 100 billion, if not more, and that's what we know of, right? So I mean, that's a big hit. That's a huge hit. It's like what, over 10% of current market cap,
right?
Which is insane. And there's definitely still more to come, especially, as this whole FTX drama plays out now that Sam's been arrested and he's going to get extradited to the US and going to dig into all the details a bit more. We're going to find out some more skeletons in cupboards, I guarantee it, which is further going to depress sentiment.
And the pain is just going to drip out now, right? There's going to be...
It's going to drip out over 12 months. Yeah. And that's unfortunate for us in a way because, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming over the next year. And the best we can hope for is that we can decouple and decorrelate from the broader market a little bit, which I have some confidence that we can do because we're still fairly unknown, right? And so once we start to deliver Babylon and the wallet and all the kind of RadFi stuff, that might be enough of cherries on the cake that we can decouple and actually have a proper price discovery. So it might not look too bad for us. I think we're probably in the best position we could be in terms of market, that we're still fairly unknown. Our hard hitting products haven't landed yet, and they can potentially help us to decorrelate.
I think the other thing I really look forward to in the bear markets is the fact that basically everything resets in some way. So a lot of the products that were successful in the last bull run are not going to look like, each bull run has looked completely different. The things that have made people excited. So the next bull run is not going to look like the previous bull run. And so as a result, as a layer one protocol, bear markets, if you have product in market that is good to be able to build an experiment with, bear markets are a dream, because you're no longer competing against the noise of things that are successful on other layer ones. You're now really focusing on core value delivery. Are you delivering products that are interesting, that people want to play around with? And
your only competitors and the only noise you're dealing with are the big incumbents, which is expected, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, those guys at the top, that are just residential in those positions, right?
And so we're going to see a lot of experiment happen over 2023. And a lot of experiment with business models, and a lot of experiment with new things. Like, people don't want to hear about sort of NFT drops. And they don't want to hear about the next yield farming thing. They want to hear about something new and different. So new problem.
Right, because that's done now. Yeah, I know about yield farms and NFTs. I know where I need to go to get them and what I need to do. And then, your retail, when it happens, they'll just get absorbed into that anyway, because they won't particularly be noisy, because they'll be more passive users, right? I'll put the tokens there and I'll pay for this and I'll pay for that, and I can do this thing. Okay, cool, I'll buy that. They're not going to be on Reddit or 4chan or anything making a bunch of noise. So the bear markets are good for.
So bear markets are going to be about
getting rid of all the bullshit stuff.
Bear markets are going to be about building community, about building products that deliver something of value, and about building communities, new communities around those products that deliver something of value. And that's what I live for. I fucking love that stuff. That's my favorite. Anyone who listens to the DeFi download will know that's what I'd spend a lot of my time talking about, is why do people want this? What's product market fit look like? And so I super excited. If you are here now in the depths of the bear market, you are amongst the elite few who will get to be part of building the next cycle. And this is an incredibly exciting time, even though it's going to feel depressing at times. It's an incredibly exciting time.
Oh yeah. I mean, the depression is going to last 12 months, in my opinion. I don't think we're actually going to see a proper turnaround until Q1 24. Before the FTX dropped, I thought, okay, we'll start to see a turnaround Q1, Q2, perfect for us, right? And 23, that would have been good timing. But yeah, this FTX stuff is going to just drip forever. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the end of all the Luna stuff either, because there's still stuff happening there. It's moving slow, but I still think there's going to be some skeletons and cupboards there that come out eventually.
Maybe.
Yeah, the next 12 months is just going to be sideways. I don't think we're gonna drop much further. I don't think, like, people are kind of prepared for more. Like, they're not going to be surprised at this point, right? Anything else that happens from FTX or Luna, everyone's already very much right. Okay, right, I'm ready for your punches this time. So I don't think there's going to be any more kind of panic selling. I just think it's going to go sideways until everybody has a confidence that, right, there's no more $15 billion deficits floating around anywhere, right?
Who hasn't declared their leverage?
And that's just going to take time. It's just going to take time to weed all that out and for people's confidence. So yeah, next year is just going to be sideways, guys. Unless we're very lucky and we can decorrelate somehow.
Which I would say, like, stop staring at trading screens. Like, nothing's going to happen on your trading screens for quite a while, and start getting involved in community, start getting involved in building stuff. Like, go back to what made you excited about crypto in the first place. And it's not about making money. It's about
no. For most people, it's not about making money. Like, obviously there's some that are just here to make money, right? But like, most individuals are here because there was something about it that excited them in terms of sovereign freedom.
Money is the effect of building something successful, right? Money is the effect of delivering value. And so, like, you really should be looking, we should all be looking for where value can best be delivered to the world, and how we can leverage this technology that we know to be so powerful to do that, to actually make the impact that we say we want to do, to actually change the world in the way that we say that we want to do. And it's not about pump and dump, and it's not about token drops, and it's not about NFT scams. It's about building things that actually matter. And a lot of those things are abstract right now, like the concept of DAOs, the concept of liquidity pools, the concept of, like, being able to build marketplaces of stuff. But, like, those things matter because they drive economies, and they drive governments, and they drive organizations, and they sit at the basis of everything, of the way that we organize as humans, the way that we allocate resources as humans. So, like, we have this opportunity to build incredible things off the basis of these very interesting and abstract tools. So, like, let's get to it.
It's an interesting point, actually, right? Like, at the moment, crypto doesn't really have an economy, right? So, like, when you think about, like, the world, marketplaces and business and trade and stuff, right? That's an economy, yeah. But we don't have that here yet. All we have is trading, yeah. That's not an economy, right? Trading does not an economy make. But once you start to, over the next, 12, 24 months, and people start to figure out how to build these things in, like, Web3 and stuff, right? Marketplaces and infrastructure, and you still have the trading aspect as well, right? But, like, actual useful applications that integrate with different services, right? So you'll have DeFi and Web3 that will start to get integrated into social media. I guarantee it over the next 12, 24 months, right? Those two things will come together. Once you start to get AR, VR really start to integrate, and you have all the kind of metaverse stuff all start to be built in as well, then you start to have an economy, right? And not just like NFTs, but like a proper economy where there's proper trade going on for goods and services, as well as just trading for speculation. Then once you've got an economy, that's when things really start to get really interesting, because then that economy can potentially grow to eclipse all government economies on the planet. And that's really when, like, the tables start to turn a little bit here, and you really start to see some interesting knock-on effects of what this space can do.
When the real world starts to really interface with Web3 and layer 1.
Yeah. And we don't have that right now.
Really. There's, like, a little bit of real world assets. Some people have tried things like internet networks, like Helium have tried things about, like, incentivized internet networks. And, there's a few things that are on the periphery, but, like,
But a lot of those services as well are they're still very much centralized services that just bolt into a blockchain or a ledger somewhere, right? It's not really a true integration. It's not like it doesn't really sit inside the economy, right? Because that centralized service, that's its own kind of micro economy on that service, and it just uses Ethereum because it's useful, right? It can do some useful stuff on the back end for that service. But when you start to see, like OpenSea, right? When you see a proper Web3 decentralized OpenSea, then that centralized economy that once was isn't it's not a micro economy anymore. It's part of the larger economy, and that's when you start to see really interesting economic dynamics start to play out.
It's going to be an exciting, for me at least, it's going to be a fascinating year, I think.
These next 2 years are what I was playing around with back in the early e-money days, with marketplaces, right, and apps and dexes and all those interesting apps that all the OGs that have been following this project forever will remember. And I was playing around with all that stuff because like Web3 wasn't a term then, but back then I was playing around with Web3. I just didn't know it yet. You know what I mean? Because I knew that eventually it would gravitate that way, and all those centralized internet infrastructure services would start to be absorbed by this decentralized Web3, and that's where we're going. And so to finally see that start to happen and have a proper term for it now, I mean, that's so exciting for me because I've been waiting 10 years for this shit to start happening. I mean, it could have happened a bit sooner, but
You could have
better
built
late than
Radix
never, I
sooner,
guess.
Dan. Jesus Christ.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, and even if, let's say, like back 5-6 years ago, right, all that stuff would have been figured out, yeah, and we didn't have to go through a couple more iterations. And let's say that we had Radix Xi'an 5 or 6 years ago, it would have been too early anyway.
There's too many
Like,
things that people had to work out that were not just
too many things changed at once. Too many things changed at once.
And it's also not just technology things. It's like people needed to understand like building blocks that you can do now that you've got the technology. It's the same with the internet. The internet took a long time to progress, not because the technology didn't progress. A lot of the things that made the internet usable and interesting was actually more to do with what you could create now the internet existed, and people just understanding like the concept of user-generated content. It wasn't that wasn't technically possible. It was that you needed a big enough user base, enough people connected to the internet, enough people interested in the concept, and enough ideas about how you would aggregate and recommend and find that content and all this kind of stuff. So like, there's still all of this.
There's also a lot of stuff that you can't control that plays into this. Like think about all the kind of political sentiment, right, and current affairs stuff that's happened over the past couple of years. Like those things have in like a more abstract way been a driver of Web3 as well, right? Like social media companies and censorship of things, and the whole Twitter drama that's going on right now. It's like those things also drive innovation and a change in habits of your populace, right? So without those things, then maybe we wouldn't have been further along. Without FTX, maybe there wouldn't be such a desire now to not have centralized exchanges in the future, right? Hopefully we learn from this lesson this third time round. Otherwise, I'm really going to start losing faith in humans. Like how many big exchanges have we had fail now that have caused massive bear markets, right? It's about time that we didn't have it happen again. And we've got 18, 24 months to figure it out, which we can do. But it's a very exciting time.
On that note, I think we'll leave it for now. And in a closing, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone who's listening. And Dan, do you have anything you want to round out the year on?
2 pills of wisdom. 1, if you day trade in this market, you're insane. So unless you're an experienced day trader, do not day trade, please, because you'll lose your money. And number 2, remember, crypto doesn't scam people, people do. and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you everyone for listening or watching.